need some kicker help. Here's a few kickers that can help you heading into week 13. The first guy's Gano. Each and every week, it seems like I'm talking about him, but people aren't listening. And Gano, he's out there in 97% of leagues. Another great fantasy day for him versus Cincinnati with 15 fantasy points. In this one, he hit a 43-yarder, a 47-yarder, a 35-yarder, and a 33-yarder, and a PAT. Now, Gano, he came off the COVID list. He was good to go in this one. Daniel Jones, it looks like he's going to miss a few games. So I think there's going to be more opportunities for the Giants to get into field goal range instead of the end zone, where they're going to have to just settle. And next week they verse a good Seattle team, where I think the Giants, they're not going to score much, especially with Colt McCoy behind center in this ball game. And it's going to be challenging for them. So I think Gano, he could get close to double-digit fantasy points again next week. I think the Giants, they can move the ball a little with McCoy, but I don't think they can punch it in. And this is where Gano is going to come in handy. And plus, he's had 3 consecutive fantasy games now with double-digit fantasy points. So go out there and get Gano. The second guy that gets Tyler Bass, another guy each and every week, he's on this waiver wire list. And people, they're just not picking him up. And once again, his 4th out of 5th game with double-digit fantasy points. He had 11 fantasy points versus the Chargers, 3 extra points, a 47-yarder and a 44-yarder in this ball game. And like I said, he's top 3 in fantasy points for kickers, and he's available in a whopping 79% of fantasy leagues. This guy, he pretty much has to be owned in each and every league, is Tyler Bass, because he just keeps hitting field goals and he keeps putting up points. And this Buffalo Bill offense, they're scoring a lot of points this year. Now they got San Francisco coming up on Monday Night Football that gives up the 6th most fantasy points to kickers. So go out there and pick up Tyler Bass. The next guy is Aldrich Rosas of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Rosas, he looked good in this ball game, except he missed one of them. But Rosas, if he could stay the kicker for the Jaguars, if, Lambeau don't come back and he stays healthy, he's not a bad option. He's 100% available in all fantasy leagues, so go out there and get him. He had a 27-yarder, a 54-yarder, and a PAT, and he missed a 46-yarder in this game. Like I said, Jacksonville, they get a lot of opportunities to kick field goals. They don't finish many drives off. Then they've had 8 and 9 kickers, it seems like, this season. But Rosas, he was an all-star a few years ago. He made the Pro Bowl team when he was on the New York Giants. So Rosas, if he stays the kicker for Jacksonville, he's not a bad option to go out there and pick up and play him in Week 13 versus the Minnesota Vikings, who give up the 2nd most fantasy points to kickers. So give Rosas a shot. The next guy is Matt Gay, the former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, now a Los Angeles Ram, and he had a good ball game in this one. Was Gay versus the San Francisco 49ers with a double-digit fantasy game at the kicker position with 10 fantasy points. He hit a 43-yarder, a 46-yarder, and 2 extra points. It looks like Gay's going to be the guy there. I don't know if Forbath is going to come back or what, but Gay, he's been healthy. And now he's got back-to-back double-digit fantasy point games with 10 the last 2 weeks. Now he has Arizona coming up, who'll give up the 9th most fantasy points to kickers. And we saw this week Nick Folk with 9 points. So Matt Gay, I would go out there and give him a shot. He's available in 96% of fantasy leagues. So I would go out there and pick him up. And the 5th and final kicker is Greg the Leg Zuerlein, another guy who's been on this list a lot this season, but he's still underappreciated and he's still unowned in many leagues. He's available in 60% of leagues. On Thanksgiving Day, he had 9 fantasy points with a 34-yarder, a 37-yarder, and a 28-yarder, and an extra point. So Greg the Leg, he's good for 9 to 15 points each and every week, it seems like. This Cowboy team now, they got to verse a tough Baltimore defense in Week 13, where I could see them do nothing but settle for field goals in this one. So you're going to have the Leg out there. He's available in a bunch of leagues, and go get him. So there's a few kickers I'm looking to add on waivers this week heading into Week 13.